Remy Ma and 50 Cent just shook the internet overnight. Fire flushed face. Stop whatever you are doing right now and throw your phone across the room. Because hip-hop's most chaotic matrix just glitched. And the internet is in absolute, unadulterated shambles. If you thought the celebrity drama cycle was finally cooling off, think again, because Remy Ma and 50 Cent just dropped an overnight bombshell that has bloggers hyperventilating, PR crisis teams pulling their hair out, and Papoose probably staring blankly at a wall in total disbelief that we are talking about a single late-night move that flipped the entire culture upside down in under 60 seconds flat. What was supposed to be a routine birthday promo at Planet Hollywood instantly turned into a full-blown digital war room. People aren't just looking at the flyer, they are zooming into every single pixel, decoding cryptic venue tags, and uncovering paper trails that hint at backroom power deals, secret rivalries, and the kind of high-stakes petty games that only Curtis Jackson could orchestrate. The timeline is completely divided, anonymous industry insiders are already flooding the comments, and the story everyone bought into for years is evaporating right in front of us. Is this an innocent venue partnership, a calculated business takeover, or the ultimate chess move in a feud that never truly ended? Grab your popcorn and hold on tight, because we are diving deep into the most absurd, shocking, and wildly entertaining scandal to rock the internet this year. Now that the internet's collective brain has completely short-circuited over this overnight madness, we have to pause and dissect the sheer magnitude of the players involved, because this is not your run-of-the-mill garden variety celebrity noise. No, this is a toxic collision of two of the most volatile, unapologetic, and strategically petty forces in the history of hip-hop entertainment. To fully understand why the entire digital world is currently hyperventilating over a single flyer, you have to look at the track records of Remy Ma and Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, two individuals who have practically built their entire public personas on calculated chaos, public feuds, and an uncanny ability to manipulate the media whenever it suits their agenda. Remy Ma, the undisputed Bronx rap queen, has never been one to tread lightly. From her early days breaking into the industry with raw, unfiltered dominance to her high-profile legal battles, public falling outs, and relentless marital drama that has kept blogs fed for over a decade, she operates in a permanent state of high stakes. Every move she makes is dissected like a state secret, mainly because she has built a reputation for keeping her true motives wrapped in layers of ambiguity, while letting the internet burn itself out with speculation. Then, on the other side of this absurd equation, you have 50 Cent, a man who has quite literally turned the art of internet trolling into a multi-million-dollar corporate enterprise. Curtis Jackson does not do anything by accident. He does not double-tap a photo, res-hair a story, or tag a location unless there is a calculated payout, a public humiliation, or a massive business play waiting at the end of the line. For years, 50 Cent has operated like a rogue puppet master in the hip-hop ecosystem, notorious for poking at existing wounds, reigniting cold wars, and dropping subtle hints online that send entire PR departments into emergency damage control. When you put these two specific personalities in the same sentence, let alone on the same promotional flyer for an event taking place at a venue tied directly to 50 Cent's expanding Live nightlife empire, you aren't just looking at a birthday party announcement. You are looking at a masterclass in psychological warfare. The history here is littered with landmines that make this current situation feel like a ticking time bomb. Remember, this isn't the first time 50 Cent has hovered around Remy Ma's personal life like a dark cloud of viral controversy. Cast your mind back to the infamous social media exchange years ago, when Remy posted a simple progress photo highlighting her dramatic physical transformation. Under normal circumstances, a peer dropping a brief compliment would be forgotten in 24 hours. But when 50 Cent stepped into the comment section with a single loaded word, it triggered an immediate defensive response from Remy's husband, Papoose. That brief interaction spawned weeks of dramatic commentary, reaction videos, and wild theories about behind-the-scenes tension. It established a very clear, very public dynamic. Whenever 50 Cent enters Remy Ma's orbit, chaos inevitably follows, and Papoose is usually left attempting to maintain control over a narrative that is rapidly spinning out of hand. Fast forward through years of relentless gossip, whispered breakups, battle rap scandals involving figures like Easy the Block Captain, and ongoing speculation about who is actually standing where in this complicated web, and you begin to see why this sudden midnight post felt like a tactical missile strike on the timeline. The public reputation of everyone involved is already hanging by a thread in the court of public opinion. Viewers have spent months analyzing every subtle shade dropped on podcasts, every deleted Instagram post, and every cryptic quote tweeted at 3 in the morning. So when a flyer suddenly materializes advertising Remy's grand birthday bash right in the heart of Times Square at Planet Hollywood, tagged directly to 50 Cent's brand, it feels like the ultimate plot twist in a soap opera that has gone on way too long. It defies every assumption the blogs have been pushing for the past 2 years. People are looking at this and asking the most obvious chaotic questions imaginable. Is this a blatant display of corporate disrespect? Or is it the most calculated truce in rap history? Did Remy intentionally bypass her inner circle to secure a high-powered corporate backing from hip-hop's most infamous instigator? Or did 50 Cent pull off the ultimate power move by absorbing Remy's brand into his own venue ecosystem, just to send a message to everyone who ever doubted his reach? The sheer audacity of the move is what leaves people speechless. In an industry where alliances shift faster than the algorithms, seeing Remy Ma openly align her personal milestone with 50 Cent's business interests feels like watching two rogue generals forge a secret pact right on the front lines. The bad reputation, the past rivalries, the endless line of bitter ex-associates, and the trail of online wreckage both of these artists have left behind over the last 20 years all serve as the backdrop for this current scandal. Every single person watching this unfold knows that neither Remy nor 50 Cent possesses an ounce of chill. They are both masters of the narrative, fully aware that the moment those tags went live, the internet would burst into flame. The suspense isn't just about a venue choice or a reshared story. It's about the terrifying realization that something massive has been brewing behind closed doors, while the rest of us were looking the other way. The stage was set, the players were positioned, and as the clock ticked past midnight, the first wave of fake leaks, anonymous industry tips, and wildly exaggerated claims began pouring out from the darkest corners of the web, proving that this was never just about celebrating a birthday, but about initiating a complete takeover of the news cycle. As the flyer continued to circulate like wildfire across every major gossip page, the narrative immediately took a dark cinematic turn into the realm of clandestine industry dealings and exaggerated corporate excess. Within hours of the initial post, self-proclaimed internet sleuths and anonymous industry whistleblowers began flooding online forums with what can only be described as the most wildly elaborate, unverified investigative reports ever assembled over a nightclub appearance. Alleged leaked documents from unnamed venue insiders started surfacing, claiming that this birthday event was far from a simple venue rental. According to these sensationalized, highly suspicious reports, the agreement behind the Planet Hollywood bash involved a high-stakes, off-the-books partnership deal negotiated in absolute secrecy at a private lounge in Manhattan weeks before the flyer ever touched the internet. The fake leaks went so far as to detail astronomical spending figures, claiming that the production budget for this single night surpassed 7 figures, complete with demands for custom gold-plated VIP tables, private security details usually reserved for foreign dignitaries, and an exclusive NDA agreement enforced for every staff member working the floor. Bloggers immediately took these outrageous claims and ran with them, painting a picture of staggering extravagance, corporate corruption, and an absolute abuse of clout that left the entire hip-hop community in a state of bewildered awe. Anonymous sources claiming to be former team members started dropping quotes to tabloid outlets, alleging that the venue choice was a direct, calculated slap in the face to Papoose and his entire camp, suggesting that 50 Cent had personally authorized an open bar tab worth hundreds of thousands of dollars just to ensure the night became an undeniable spectacle that no one could ignore. According to these alleged industry insiders, the entire event was structured not as a celebration, but as an aggressive corporate flexing match designed to establish total dominance over the local nightlife and media ecosystem. The fake investigative findings detailed extravagant rider requests that sounded more like royalty demands than a rap party, including private armored transport from the Bronx to Times Square, closed-door VIP lounge access reserved exclusively for high-yield investors, and a reported clause that strictly prohibited any rival media outlets or unauthorized bloggers from stepping within a 3-block radius of the venue. The sheer scale of these exaggerated reports sent shockwaves through the comment sections. Viewers were rapidly digesting quotes from supposedly plugged-in figures who claimed that 50 Cent's PH Live empire was effectively absorbing Remy's brand management behind the scenes, cutting out all previous managerial ties and establishing a new hierarchy that left past associates completely out in the cold. Public reactions exploded into absolute hysteria as these wild claims gained traction. Commenters on social media platforms divided into fierce, warring factions overnight. One side claimed that this was the ultimate display of corporate boss moves, praising Remy for aligning herself with a mogul who actually possesses the capital and infrastructure to elevate her brand to global heights. They pointed to the sheer audacity of taking over Times Square as proof that she was operating on a completely different level than her peers. However, the opposing side viewed the entire spectacle as a blatant, shameless abuse of power and a tragic betrayal of past loyalties. Critics accused both Remy and 50 Cent of orchestrating a staged media circus designed purely to farm engagement, distract from ongoing personal drama, and line their pockets with sponsor money while leaving fans and former partners picking up the pieces of their broken reputations. The internet became a battleground of memes, fake quotes, and dramatic video essays dissecting every single sentence uttered by anonymous sources. Gossip pages began publishing dramatic breakdowns of the alleged financial kickbacks, asserting without a shred of verified evidence that 50 Cent had promised Remy an executive equity stake in upcoming entertainment ventures in exchange for her public endorsement of his venue space. The absurdity reached a fever pitch when fake quotes attributed to venue staff started circulating, describing chaotic closed-door rehearsals, screaming matches over guest lists, and security protocols so intense that even top-tier celebrities were allegedly forced to sign non-disclosure agreements before being granted entry to the VIP list. Every new detail, no matter how ridiculous or fabricated, was swallowed whole by an audience hungry for the next chapter in this ongoing celebrity saga. What made the public backlash even more intense was the glaring, uncomfortable silence from those directly affected by this sudden alignment. Papooses' social media pages were instantly swarmed by thousands of relentless trolls posting venue flyers, laughing emojis, and sarcastic questions, asking if he had managed to secure a ticket to the VIP section. The public reaction was merciless, with bloggers constructing elaborate narrative arcs about how this single party was the final definitive nail in the coffin for his public standing. Meanwhile, figures like Easy the Block Captain were drawn back into the toxic commentary loop, as internet detectives pulled up old birthday messages, reshared posts, and cryptic tweets to build a convoluted timeline that made the entire situation look like a high-stakes chess game where everyone was playing each other for viral clout. The narrative had completely transformed from a simple promotional post into an investigative thriller filled with allegations of backroom bribes, corporate intimidation, and a ruthlessly calculated takeover of the culture. Fans were actively analyzing every piece of fake evidence, from blurry screenshots of supposed text exchanges between venue promoters to wildly speculative financial breakdowns claiming that the venue was operating under fraudulent promotional permits just to pull off the event. The line between reality and internet-generated fiction had entirely dissolved, creating a chaotic feedback loop where the more absurd the story became, the faster it spread across the digital landscape. As the public spectacle reached its absolute peak, the conversation naturally began drifting away from the immediate shock of the party itself and settled firmly into the terrifying territory of fallout, consequences, and imminent legal destruction. The sheer magnitude of the hype, combined with the wild allegations of illegal permits, off-the-books cash exchanges, and corporate intimidation, meant that regulatory eyes and legal hawks were bound to enter the chat. Rumors immediately began swirling that city officials and entertainment oversight boards were quietly launching probes into the venue's promotional practices, following the massive wave of public noise. Independent investigative bloggers started claiming that several major sponsors who had originally backed the venue were suddenly threatening to pull their funding. Panicked by the overwhelming tide of negative press, toxic online arguments, and potential legal entanglements surrounding the event, the threat of financial ruin and corporate crisis began looming large over the entire operation. Hypothetical financial breakdowns published by viral commentary channels suggested that if the event were to be shut down or boycotted due to the rising public backlash, the venue could face millions of dollars in liquidated damages, lost ticket sales, and broken distribution contracts. Industry analysts, or at least the self-proclaimed experts occupying comment sections, pointed out that 50 Cent's PH Live brand was taking an incredible, almost reckless risk by tying its public image so closely to such a deeply divisive narrative. One bad move, one public altercations on the red carpet, Or one surprise legal injunction filed by disgruntled former business partners could trigger a domino effect that would flatten the entire venture before the first champagne bottle was even popped. The tension in the air was palpable, with viewers waiting on pins and needles for the inevitable hammer to drop. Predictions of emergency press conferences, sudden executive resignations, and high-profile lawsuits dominated the headlines. Bloggers openly speculated that Papooses' legal team was secretly preparing a massive restraint order to prevent certain personal branding elements from being used at the event, while others insisted that rival club owners in Manhattan were actively conspiring to file noise and safety complaints to force local authorities to revoke the venue's operating license at the final hour. The narrative had escalated to a point where every single update felt like the fuse of a bomb burning down to its last millimeter, holding millions of spectators hostage in anticipation of the ultimate corporate and personal meltdown. The legal jeopardy didn't stop at venue permits and corporate sponsorships. It extended directly into the personal lives and long-term careers of everyone who dared to attach their name to this promotional blitz. Commentators began laying out hypothetical scenarios where federal tax auditors, entertainment unions, and brand safety regulators would begin combing through every contract signed between Remy Ma, 50 Cent, and the Planet Hollywood venue operators. Phrases like financial fraud, breach of contract, and brand sabotage were tossed around with reckless abandon across podcast studios and live streams. Viewers were led to believe that this single birthday celebration was on the verge of sparking a widespread industry investigation that could drag down multiple high-profile figures, exposing years of questionable business practices, hidden assets, and backroom political favors that had kept the local nightlife scene running under the radar for far too long. The momentum was completely unstoppable, building toward a dramatic crescendo where someone was going to have to take the fall for the absolute chaos that had been unleashed upon the internet. The public backlash was no longer confined to casual commentary. It was morphing into an active, aggressive crusade to hold these hip-hop titans accountable for what many perceived as a masterclass in public manipulation and corporate greed. The stage was set for a catastrophic fallout, with the entire digital world staring intently at their screens, waiting to see whether this high-stakes gamble would end in an unprecedented victory for 50 Cent and Remy Ma or collapse into the most embarrassing, legally disastrous scandal in the history of modern music culture. Every passing second brought new reports of emergency crisis meetings behind closed doors at PH Live, with anonymous venue executives reportedly panicking as major corporate sponsors began demanding formal audits and safety guarantees before allowing their logos to remain anywhere near the event promotional materials. The potential fallout was no longer just a hypothetical topic for commentary channels. It was fast becoming a full-blown financial crisis that threatened to crater millions of dollars in future venue bookings, distribution deals, and corporate partnerships across 50 Cent's expanding media portfolio. Speculation mounted that if a single regulatory agency stepped in to audit the high-yield promotional contracts signed for the evening, it could uncover a labyrinth of tax write-offs, off-the-books appearance fees, and undisclosed equity transfers that would trigger an immediate domino effect of federal probes, civil lawsuits, and public resignations across the entire executive board. The immediate public backlash against Remy Ma also reached unprecedented levels, with critics accusing her of risking her entire two-decade legacy for a fleeting spike in digital engagement and a high-powered corporate cosign from hip-hop's most chaotic figure. Longtime supporters voiced deep concern over the long-term impact on her professional standing, pointing out that aligning her personal brand so closely with 50 Cent's aggressive business tactics could alienate independent promoters, radio networks, and female empowerment platforms that had championed her career for years. The sheer volume of negative commentary flowing across social media created an environment where any attempt to soften the narrative or issue a standard PR statement felt completely inadequate, leaving both camps trapped inside a media storm of their own, making where every tactical reaction only added more fuel to the fire. Industry analysts began openly questioning whether this high-stakes promotional stunt would end up costing 50 Cent far more than it was worth, arguing that dragging ongoing marital feuds and street-level rap politics into a high-end Times Square commercial establishment was a massive miscalculation that damaged the corporate credibility of the entire PH Live brand. As news spread that local activist groups and rival nightlife coalitions were allegedly preparing formal petitions to challenge the venue's operational licenses ahead of the event, The entire narrative shifted from a story about a celebrity party to a cautionary tale about the dark side of internet-driven clout-chasing corporate greed, and the catastrophic collateral damage that occurs when high-profile figures lose complete control over the public narratives they attempt to manipulate. The digital atmosphere reached a boiling point as millions of viewers locked onto their feeds, frantically refreshing for the next leak, the next legal filing, or the first official statement from the parties involved. The suspense was almost unbearable, with commentators pointing out that regardless of whether the event actually went off without a hitch or collapsed under